Don't you guys feel like you're living history? Like the last council meeting in this building?
Oh,
The end of an era.
I didn't even think that.
Awesome.
Era.
All right. We're good. Okay. Thank you, Brenda. Let's call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Henry.
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Community comment for anything not on the agenda. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
We once again have a motion from Councilmember Henry and a second from Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along, new business, the 2019 project assessment agreements. Mr. Harris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In the packet, you have a memorandum from me, a memorandum from Josh Eckstein, a resolution, and in the interest of saving trees and gigabytes of storage, one example of each of the two assessment agreements rather than every one. As the council may recall, sometime previously, after a series of meetings, the council, in an effort to provide some assistance and perhaps a helping hand in what's a difficult project for many people, had agreed that in addition to assessing the cost of the improvements in certain portions of the city, it would also agree to assess the connection fees, the SAC and the WAC fee, the water meter fee, and the fee going to MCS. And if requested by the property owners, the city would enter into contracts to construct the physical connection, that is the connection from the sewer and water lines being put into the street and into the actual house. All of the property owners were given a pretty detailed letter and draft agreement some time ago where they were given a choice. It was a column A, B, or C. Column A is, I don't want any of my connection fees or any of the connection costs assessed. Column B is, in addition to the regular assessment, I also want the city to assess the SAC and the WAC, the MCS, and the water meter fee. Column C was, I want the city to assess not only the cost of the improvement, not only the cost of all the connection fees, but I also want the city to enter into a construction contract, construct the physical connection from my house out to the sewer and water lines in the street, and assess me for that. Pretty strong response. I think it was innovative by the council to be willing to do that, and it was extremely well received by the property owners in that area. We got robust response. We had 9 property owners that elected column B, which is assess me the cost of building the sewer and water in the street and the connection fees, and then another 11 property owners that said assess the cost of the project, the connection fees, and go out and construct the connection for me and assess that. You have attached to the packet, or attached to the memorandum, a copy of each of the 2 types of memorandums of agreement for the 2 different types of assessment. That is the assessment that's just the connection fees in addition to the project cost, and the second one is the connection fees and the physical connection in addition to the project costs. You've also got a memo from Josh Eckstein, because if property owners take the third option, the city has to then enter into a contract with a specific contractor to build the physical connection from the street to the actual houses. The city gave the property owners the ability to go out and talk to contractors on their own. The ultimate decision as to who the contractor would be that of the city. But we encourage the property owners to go out and make their own contacts with contractors, because they're the ones that are going to have to live with this. There are 4 different contractors, Coppin Sewer and Water, Dave's Excavating, Wayne Dewalder Plumbing, and Diversified Plumbing and Heating, that are contracting to put in the work. Those are the physical connections over the the specific property owners that have elected that option. Obviously, some of those contractors are doing multiple installs. And the city will be entering into contracts that are prepared by Bolton and Mink with each of those contractors. The one rub that the council needs to know is because this is an assessment agreement, the city has to commit to a maximum assessment amount. Now, we know what it's going to cost to construct the project. That determination was made some time ago. We know what the connect fees are. The actual cost of constructing the physical connection, you know, you run sometimes into contractors that say, well, I ran into something unforeseen, I ran into overruns. Josh and I have talked about this quite a bit, and Josh has assured me that he's pulled out the velvet hammer and has worked with all the contractors and doesn't believe there will be any claims for overruns, because we can't go back to the property owners once we sign an agreement with them. So before you tonight is Resolution 140-19. That resolution does three things. It approves the two different forms of the assessment agreements that I drafted, the one for the project plus the connection fees, and the one for the project, the connection fees, and the physical connection. It also authorizes the city to enter into the individual construction contracts with the 4 different contractors for the specific property owners which have requested that the physical connection from the street to their house be made by the city and they be assessed for it. That's a general overview of what's in the packet and what you're being asked to do tonight. I'm ready to answer any questions.
For option one, right, where they're not choosing to have the city make the connection,
Correct.
is there any concern about risk to the city with the homeowner making their own arrangements?
Well, no, it is atypical for a city to construct the connection between a street and a house.
Oh, okay, so
I mean,
that's
it's-
the norm. The norm
The
is
norm is we
option one.
don't.
Got it.
The norm is we don't do it. Humor me, perhaps the better, more interesting question is, what are the risks to the city in option 2, which is
Fair enough.
where we are
And
constructing
you talked a
the
little bit about
connection.
that, overruns and things like that, yeah.
It's the overruns, and it's, you know, because the city's hiring the contractor and you're going into, pick your basement.
Right.
And they got to break the wall, they go in and there's a problem. I mean, it's an issue with the contractor, but ultimately, you know, it's an issue with the city. And this was something that was talked about with the council before when it came up. This is not something that the city would typically do, but this is a really difficult project. And there's a significant economic consequences. These are relatively large charges for moderately valued homes. I can't tell you there's no risk in it, that we're not going to give, you know, some rub and some complaints that may hit my desk that are more likely to hit Bolton and Mink's desks. But, you know, it's a reasonable decision that the council made to do this.
But we're still open to those risks, and
Say again, please.
we're still open to those risks and not
there's some
without
risk there.
liability. Okay. Any questions, comments, motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 140-19, awarding as part of the 2019 Infrastructure Improvements Project.
I'll make a second to the motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember Sayer. Any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
9.2, right-of-way maintenance, or management agreement. Mr. Merrick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight we have a ordinance related to the city's right-of-way management ordinance. The city requires an excavation permit for what's commonly recognized as pipe and conduit-related infrastructure that occurs in the boulevard area. So that's the area just behind the curb to typically about 10 feet behind the curb, which is within the road right-of-way, and you'll find what we call small utilities or utility companies like Excel, CenterPoint, Comcast, recently Jaguar Communications. They'll do a lot of their work, put their pedestals or boxes within that right-of-way, and what they'll have to do based on the city's ordinance is acquire a permit from the city. We don't have any communication requirements for them, and so what commonly happens is they'll come in, do that permit, or get that permit, do the work, but residents are often wondering what's going on. They might end up having a sprinkler head or something else damaged. They don't have a contact. And so what we wanted to do is create a standard for them to not only provide that information, but provide residents with an opportunity to understand what the project is, what the schedule is, et cetera. And so what this ordinance does is requires that. Someone would come in for a permit, Bolton and Mink would review it, and this would be a requirement. Bolton and Mink would then in turn provide a mailing list based on the adjacent properties to that right-of-way section, and then the permit holder would be required to notify those properties, provide the project schedule, a general description of the work, and contact information. So the ordinance was prepared by the city attorney. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Very happy to see this.
Very thorough. I really like it.
It is. And then, we just went through this in the downtown, no idea. And there's suddenly, I don't know if I can even get to work in the morning because I can't get my car out, so it would be, I'm glad to see that there's going to be some notice for wherever work ends up being done.
Yeah, I think this is great.
I'll make a motion to to adopt ordinance 07-2019, amending sections of the city code related to the right-of-way management permits.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Mock and a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
9.3, the collective bargaining agreement. Mr. Merrick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So non-supervisory personnel in the city, in both administration and public services, are organized as a collective bargaining unit with ASME, so also otherwise known as the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. In the memo provided to you, you can see the union personnel listed on your left and non-union personnel listed on the right under the blue column. The union personnel represented by ASME, they have a business agent. They negotiate salary, insurance, and other employee-related matters through a collective bargaining agreement, often referred to as a CBA. The existing agreement runs through this year-end, December 31st of 2019, so we initiated negotiations on a new agreement earlier this summer. Aaron Smith and I represented the city during these contract negotiations, and the city council held a closed session on July 15th to review progress. The agreement is provided in your packet, the primary agreement provisions. It replaces the city's existing step system with an open range system, so that eliminates what I'd call the inflationary increase and the guaranteed step increase. So the open range system relies on market conditions, budget, and the local economy as indicators rather than kind of the mechanical system that's involved with the step system. The new pay scale increases the pay range, and so that's the minimum and the maximum, not anyone's individual pay, but it increases the range by 6%. Again, that's not for any individual employee, and that was primarily based on the market study that the city did with Baker Tilly. What we are going to be doing as it relates to this agreement is adjusting that range based on the consumer price index from year to year. So again, that's not changing anyone's individual pay, but it's increasing the floor and the ceiling for pay ranges for each of those pay grades. Within the collective bargaining agreement, you're agreeing to across the board for union employees of 3.25% in 2020 and 3.5% in 2021. We had Abdo, Eck, and Myers perform a financial impact analysis and found that the year impact to labor costs is just under $22,000, and the year two impact $19,500. George Hoff, the city's personnel attorney, did review the collective bargaining agreement. Attached is the draft or proposed collective bargaining agreement, which has been approved by our local AFSCME. I also provided a reference to our existing 2019 SEP system, which you can see in contrast to the new open range system, which is an exhibit in the collective bargaining agreement that's in your packet. So happy to answer any questions.
For the open range, you talk about market conditions, budget, local economy, things like that. Does this also have to do with performance and things like that? Is that also going to be factored in?
So performance isn't an indicator right now in the collective bargaining agreement, we'd have to negotiate that in. I think the long-term plan would be to try to incorporate some performance measures, but it's not in our existing agreement.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2020-21 collective bargaining agreement with AFS CME Local 2789-3.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Sayer and a second by Councilmember McKnight. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to council communications.
I don't have anything. I missed the Carver Business Council meeting. So I look forward to an update from somebody who was there.
If you're looking at me, that's not, I'm not here.
Okay, I'm looking over there then.
My person, I'm sorry.
I was not there either, and I don't have any updates.
I was somewhere.
Let's see. I think the only update that I have is make sure that everybody has Wednesday, September 4th on your calendar. We are doing the building dedication or open house for the new city hall. Flag raising ceremony, kickoff at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. Is there anything specific that we need to be aware of as city council? What's expected of us other than to be there?
So we're gonna put together a small program
Okay.
outline and then send that off to the council
Okay.
in advance.
Okay. No singing.
We are looking for a
Well-
singer.
Don't want.
I actually have a couple people already.
I'm not doing that. Okay. Fair enough.
Christy.
Okay. We had an HPC meeting last week, and very exciting. We have, now if I say this, Donna's building on the corner. I can't, the address
longer
escapes me here on Broadway, but next to the Temperance Hotel, and then we have the brick building on the corner. They came in with their plans for the renovations and upgrades that they're going to be doing, and it was approved, and it is going to be fantastic.
What's the timeline?
They want to get started really quickly. They're going to end up, they let us know that they were planning on living in the upstairs for a couple of years at least.
Okay.
Their intentions right now are to have the building available for rentals for meetings, small parties, things like that, and then that business plan could certainly change. But that's what they're planning on doing right now. There will be a small addition that'll be off the back of it. It's just, I'm really, really excited. That corner is going to look fantastic when
If you
this.
guys haven't
Great.
seen the drawings,
I
look
saw
them
the
up.
drawings.
They're
They
pretty
looked
sharp.
great, and I was like, when is that going to happen?
Yeah, quickly from what it sounds
Cool.
like. They're going to be
Very
working on it very quickly. So we did have that meeting. I have one other thing. I wanted to bring it up during our work session. We ran out of time. And this is nothing answers for now. Brent, maybe you can just let us know or let me know how you want to come back and talk about this. So I have been approached over the years numerous times, including Glenn, about a dog park in Carver and having some type of dog park. When I was talking with somebody about it earlier, late last week, the Lions Park has a big open area beyond where the tennis courts are. So it's just flat, it's open. There used to be maybe like a BMX track or something back there way, way back in the day. But other than that, it has sat unused since at least 2007, because that's when I began working for the city. So I know that we literally have done nothing with it, and it sits there. I'm not sure what the plans are for the future, if there's anything even in the near future. If there's nothing in the near future, being that it is at Lions Park, and creating the dog park is I don't want to say a minimal expense, but it's not huge. You have fencing and things like that, and I've built them in the past, so I know a little bit about what it takes. I thought maybe that was something we could have a discussion with the Parks Commission about. Yep, that's the spot. With the Parks Commission about, and maybe council, and I'm not sure again what process you want to use for
So
that.
it's funny that you mentioned that.
Oh, okay.
So,
Give 'em up.
Giggling.
huh?
Who's giggling?
I am, because it's funny that
Oh.
he mentioned that.
Oh, I got you. So Aaron has been working on the Parks Master Plan. That's actually an amenity that's being contemplated in the Parks Master Plan that the Parks Commission is working on. So if you just want to hold that thought, I think the Parks Master Plan should be getting to the you want to just give us an update on the process, Aaron, related to that, when the council can expect to see something?
So the Parks Commission is going to review the first full draft of the plan at their next meeting in September, and then I'm hoping to bring it to council at the first meeting in October.
Okay.
I would like to have it fully adopted by end of year, so I'll have a couple months to work through any kinks.
Okay.
But there is a spot that's being contemplated for a future dog park.
Okay. Do we know where that is yet?
I'm gonna say we're gonna talk through it at the Parks Commission.
So what you're
level.
saying is you don't want the cat or the dog out of the bag.
Come to the meeting to find out.
So anyways, I'm not sure what place you are looking at, but knowing that that is an open area in Lions Park, and again, I can't say that the Lions would fund it for sure, but there might be some possibilities there to talk about that also. Okay, that's all I have.
Glenn?
There was no planning commission the meeting this month, so I've got nothing.
She's going easy on you this year. We met every other week last fall.
That's true.
All right, city managers report?
So I have a few things, but I wanted to circle back to the 2020 draft budget. So I have a couple items related to, I want to get the sheriff's office out, get some comparison data for fire department pay, and then some updated data on debt service and how it relates from our past and percentage of total budget. Are there any other areas that you want to see as we head back to your next work session that I can prepare, assess, etc.?
I know for me, after hearing the presentation tonight, there's more questions that are going to come up. Would you prefer that for myself, if I think of them as we go before the next work session, to just email them to you, or what's the plan for the next work session?
We'll basically do the same thing at your September 3rd meeting. I can answer questions. I'm happy to answer questions at any time if there are like directions as far as like you'd like to see something added or cut. I'd prefer that to be in the work session format so the council can say we agree with that or disagree with that. But if it's what's this number and why is it going up by this amount, I can answer that. My preference would be on the whole is to have all of you talk about it at once, and because if somebody has information or a question on something, then you can all get the answer.
Sure. Thanks. I just want to make sure the next meeting will have that opportunity to do that
Yeah,
again. Okay.
I think right now we'll have the survey information, and then we'll have the 2020 budget. And I would do the sheriff's office as its own separate thing. We have some time, so I'd probably look at the sheriff's office at the second meeting in September. So we'll have quite a bit of time to talk about it, so I think we should be in good shape.
So the one other thing that kind of crossed my mind is I know we put some strategic plan items in the budget to discuss, but there were other things that I'm thinking about. Maybe they have a 2021 timing. If we can just revisit some of the strategic plan items and the timing, just so that I can have a sense, okay, this we're contemplating for 2020, this we're going to contemplate for 2021. I know we were thinking about some technology things other than the inspection. We were thinking about franchise fees. There was a lot of other items on our to-do list.
Website, right?
Yeah, so if we could just scope those, that would be helpful
Sure.
for a long term.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
idea.
I think you've got this covered, but for me, I'm struggling with the survey. But I think it could be that I just don't know enough about it and haven't wrapped my arms or my brain around the practical uses of it. But I think we'll get the opportunity to kind of dive into that deeper at our next meeting. So
I feel the same way, so I'll be happy to talk about that some more too.
Okay. A couple other items. So Brian Skoke, Paul Schultz, Dan Lannis, and I met at Riverside Park today to kind of get an overview of preparing a technical document for the council to look at as it relates to the erosion that happened along the riverbank and some other items. One of the things that Bolton and Mink is going to do is they're going to do a drone shot over it and want to create a little site plan to give the council an idea of what's down there, what's been the impact, and provide some options for the council to consider.
Will you, Brent, be able to pull aerial maps off the Carver County GIS and then overlay that with the drone so that we can see how much is left off of those slopes?
We are trying to figure out the best way to do that. The drone shots don't give you, don't tie you in geographically, coordinate-wise.
Okay.
We have to do a little bit of work to make that happen. But yeah, what we'd like to do is get to our existing conditions, what it looks like now, and then get any available data we can for, what it used to be. And so that is the goal. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Once they took that bridge out over the river, it changed the trajectory of the flow, and it has now hit the side of Riverside Park and has been consistently sloughing off a section of that embankment since that bridge has been taken out. So thank you. That's why I
Since
know
it floods
that.
all the time.
Yeah, some of it I think is maybe velocity that's taking against it. Anyways, we'll be happy to look at it, but thank you.
As it relates to City Hall, so we're planning to move on Friday. Feels weird saying that, so it's actually going to happen here. So we'll be closing city offices. We're going to be moving as employees. We're going to be moving the stuff over. Brian's been doing a lot of work on the network side, making sure our phones and computers are ready to go. So we'll be open for business a week from today. So exciting. I wanted to publicly recognize Brian and the whole public services team for all their work that they did on the regional baseball tournament with the Black Sox. And I shared this with the council, but one of those, I got a voicemail from Brian Tishy, the manager of the Black Sox, that specifically called out Jason Hansen and Eric Madigan for just being so great to work with. And it's one of those where you get kind of the warm fuzzies because it's like exactly the kind of voicemail and message you want to get when you have a job like mine. And so it's great to know that they're out there representing how we want to be represented with other groups. So I want to thank Brian and his whole team for doing that. Food truck update, so that we haven't talked about that for a while. So the person that was interested in doing a kind of a coffee shop concept in Community Park is no longer interested in that. And so we kind of muddled through what that process looks like, and we never really landed on anything. What the little conversation I've had with Aaron about it is to kind of press pause on it, because I'm not sure we have a direction. But if the council has something else that you want to take on related to that, a different strategy, if you want to get something on the books, we can certainly do that. But right now, we plan on sitting unless we hear otherwise.
Did the potential applicant lose interest because of the amount of time it's taken us to deal with this?
No.
Okay. You guys know I was excited about potential for having food trucks in the park. I'm a little disappointed that it took so long, and that not necessarily as a result, but the applicant lost interest. But that said, I know that there are many, many, many competing priorities in the city, and I'm fine with pressing pause on that process for right now.
A couple other housekeeping items. So Public Services is working on the equipment certificate funding, and so we're working with the city attorney to prepare that in the form of just one resolution that would acquire all the equipment, and so you're going to be seeing that at a meeting in September. The fire department is working on their end. They've been working with the city attorney as well, preparing specifications that can be bid out for that fire engine, so you should see that in September. One of the things that we were looking to recognize in September as well is the Edith Ann Award. That's the landscaping award. Understanding kind of the council schedule, and I know it's been a hardship when we've asked you to come in earlier for work sessions. Wanted to throw out the concept of just having either the mayor or interested council members go and get the picture taken with the award member rather than having the whole council. If you wanted to do that, we can still arrange like a 5 o'clock or 5:15 picture. But if you just wanted that to be more of a schedule.
I think I would like to be invited. I mean, we all have things that we can or can't make it to, but I think as a council as a whole, I would like to be invited to that.
I think it's a pretty important event.
It's one of my favorites.
It is.
Okay, so we'll just continue as is. I also wanted to recognize Larry Harris and Josh Eckstein. I know they really summarized it really quickly and well, but there's a lot of work that went into those, preparing those agreements and dealing with frankly, the politics of how they're put together. And they did a really nice job of taking that in for a soft landing. So thank you, Larry and Josh. You can pass that along. Also, some really good news. We've hired a new building official. Jessica Archer will be starting on Monday. She is leaving the city of Golden Valley, and selfishly, it feels good to finally take an employee from a suburb that's east of us rather than losing an
There's nothing
employee.
for her to do in the Golden
You know they're watching
Right.
this meeting tonight.
Valley. We're much more.
And we're also stealing a City of Eden Prairie employee, Peyton Geis, started today as a public services tech in the Public Services Department. So we hope to have Peyton and Jessica at your September meeting to introduce them to all of you. So that's all I have.
All right.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Mock,
Second.
a second by Councilmember Henry. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all.